right. It's buffering. It always takes its time. All right, everyone. So welcome to the Friday Tech Talk. We are happy to have Tyler Branscome. He's a Tech Academy graduate, and he's going to be talking about maintaining positive mental health as a developer. He's graduated about a year ago, and things have been going really well for him. So let's welcome Tyler. Go ahead, take it away, Tyler.
Awesome. Yeah, like we're saying, I graduated from the Tech Academy about a year ago. Took me a couple months. Finally found a developer job, working full time in there, doing all kinds of crazy stuff. And one of the things that they kind of touched on during the course was, keeping your head straight. Keeping up with your mental health. And then I was like, okay, whatever. And then I got into development, and I slowly learned how super important it is, especially with burnout. I know there was a talk a couple weeks ago about imposter syndrome. That's huge. Yeah, I just wanted to kind of go over some things that I've personally experienced with it, and hopefully you guys can take away something and help maintain your mental health a little bit. Okay. So one of the things, like I mentioned, was imposter syndrome. You don't really think about it until it actually happens. It's definitely something, especially somebody new coming on, like you guys, or just somebody starting out in the field. It's definitely something you're going to experience. I mean, I still feel it. Every time I start a new project, I'm just like, what the hell's going on? And it's hard to overcome. But one of the things that I've learned is just communicating with your team, or with, a superior, anybody like your mentor or anybody like that. I mean, I think you could still reach out to the Tech Academy and, you know, find some answers, get some help. Um, yeah, one of the ways I overcame that was a lot of communication. I know they stress that a lot during your courses. Hey, reach out if you need help, reach out if you need help. It's so important. I think I spent the first month in my development career just too scared to ask anything, getting flustered. And it's just you really have to communicate when there's a problem, or if you don't feel like you're doing good enough, with the whole imposter syndrome and everything like that. It's you really have to communicate those things and work on soft skills, and just hey, reach out to a team member or something, and just hash some things out. And then yeah, just communicate with it. And especially if you have problems with your tasks or your workload, like that can be we do extremely stressful things, and most of the time we're by ourselves. A lot of people are working from home now. It's you're sitting there by yourself and trying to solve these puzzles basically, and it's a lot on that. You just have to reach out, communicate, just try to solve the problem, but also know when you need to ask and how to ask, and developing those soft skills. Another thing is just leaving the work at work. You don't have to especially working from home, it's easy to oh, I'll just keep working even after the workday's over. I mean, there's a couple times where I worked till about 10 or 11 o'clock at night. The next day my boss is just don't do that. You're going to get extremely burnt out, and it will happen very quickly. It'll just creep up on you. And there was a couple times where it's pulling the overnighters, and the next day I'm I don't even want to look at the computer. I just can't do this. I don't want to talk to the clients. I don't want to do any of this. And you just have to learn once the workday is over, just leave it alone. You can still work on other creative projects, which is actually super beneficial. Like once your work day is over, like then you can move on to like your other personal projects, anything like that. Get the creativity flowing again. But it's like leave your work there. Like don't let it leach into the rest of your day, especially if there's like big issues. And another thing with that is like if you know you're gonna take on like a task or like work that's gonna take a lot of time, if it's after like 3 or 4 p.m., don't even touch it till the next day. That way you're not just like leaving the task unfinished. And then there's like times where it's like I'll start something and can't figure it out. I'll log off, be playing video games or something later in the day, and then I'm like, I think I just figured it out. You're just constantly thinking about it, and you don't have to. I mean, like, yeah, we're problem solvers, but leave it at work. Like, you'll figure it out the next day. Like, go back in, like, refreshed. Yeah, so it's like if it's like after 3, 4 p.m., just wait. Work on something smaller. Maybe that'll help jog some things up. Or just take a break. Breaks are like super important. I know when I was in the course, it was they're always like, yeah, take a small break, like take a walk, go do something. Like it's really important. Like when you're like frustrated, step away from the computer. Don't just like take a break where it's like, oh, I'm gonna go make a snack and then I'll just sit here and stare at my screen the whole time. It's like, no, actually get up, walk away, like pick up a book or something, go do some jumping jacks. I don't know. I'm in Florida, so just step outside. It's beautiful. It's not cold. And just really take your mind off it. It doesn't have to be a long break, like a 5-10 minute break here and there. Just walk away, come back. You're able to look at what you're doing like with fresh eyes, and you're like, okay, what am I doing here? This doesn't look right. You're gonna make a lot more mistakes and stuff. And that's when you start really thinking about it and gets in your head. And that'll drive you crazy. You'll get burnt out. Just gonna spiral from there and then start making all these other crazy mistakes. And then it might be something that you could have asked for help with, could have been simple, but now you start overthinking it and going crazy. Sorry, I haven't talked this much in a while. I work from home.
No worries.
Yeah. And then, yeah, just taking a lot of breaks. I find myself doing that a lot more now. Like at least every like hour and a half, I'll just get up, just force myself to, okay, get up, go do something else, you know, take the dog for a walk, anything. It's super important to just stay in kind of like a positive mental state. Like before I started development, I was working in like the casino field. I did that for like 10 years. It wore me down completely. And I was like, when I start this new career, I'm not going to let that happen. I'm going to, always try to like figure the problem out before it becomes a problem. And by like just doing like little things like, sleeping, eating, exercising, taking breaks when I need to, communicating when I have a problem, just little things like that. Just, it sounds like things you should already be doing, but it's like you don't really think about it until like you get into a point where you're like, just, I'm frustrated. I don't feel good now. This is no longer fun. And it's like, I think everybody gets into this because they have some kind of like passion for technology or anything like that. And once you get to the point where you're like burned out and it's no longer fun, it's why still do it? And it's like we all went through this boot camp and we're all trying, and it should be fun. You should want to do it. And just doing little things like this will keep, you going, keep you like wanting to learn new languages and try different creative things. Like I'm trying to completely rewrite this project we're doing now, and I'm like they're not going to go for it, but I'm going to try it anyway, just because it seems interesting. So just like, you have to keep it fun. So.
And one thing I'd like to let everyone know, attendees are welcome to ask questions in the chat. So that's open. If you have a question, you can raise your hand and I'll unmute the mic so you can ask it. But Tyler's been through, our boot camp. Then he went through and went into what it was like to find a job. So he has that experience. And I would like to hear a little bit about what it was like when you first started looking for work and maybe kind of how you handled rejection and that kind of thing.
Oh, lots of rejection. Lots.
So
it's kind of scary at first. Like, the boot camp and stuff, they like the job placement course, like they kind of prepare you for it, but it's not until you get like that first 15 rejections where you're like, wow, like, should I keep going with this? But you kind of have to, like, especially if you're like passionate about it. You can't let like all the rejections and stuff like bring your mental health down and be like, I don't know if I should keep doing this. I don't think I can hear no one more time. I think I put in like 200 applications. I did like 4 or 5 interviews. I mean, I just kind of got lucky on this last one and I love it. Like, it's people I work with are great. They knew exactly where I was when I started. Like, I just explained to them, like, oh yeah, I graduated a boot camp like I think 2-3 months before I got the job. And I was like, yeah, so I mean, I'm just willing to learn. I still want this to be fun and stuff like that. And really tried those soft skills out. And then here I am leading development projects and talking directly with clients and all that crazy stuff. Breaking the coffee machine at work. It's all good.
yeah, we're all good at that. Looks like Tammy has a question. Says, Tyler, thank you for saying this. I feel the same way, and I am on pins and needles for my dream job. I've been through 3 rounds, but getting rejection after rejection and ghosting is hard.
Yeah. It's gonna happen. Like, especially like right now. It's a lot of luck. Like, I found that like I got more callbacks and I got further when I just explained, like, hey, I just went through a boot camp. Like, this is where I'm at. This is what I can do. I'm willing to learn. Like, stress that part like a lot. Like, hey, I'm willing to learn. I'm not trying to sit here and tell you that I'm like this crazy full stack developer now. It's like, but I want to be. You just kind of have to play. Like, soft skills like are definitely like your biggest friend when you graduate and you're looking for these jobs. Like, just really like want to stress that you're willing to be a team player. You're willing to learn. You're like, hey, I just put all this time into learning this. I want to go further with it. So that's a big thing. And then it only takes that one yes to make up for all the no's. Like, I think I only got 2 offers. And when I finally said yes to this one, it was just like, you completely forget about all the no's, all the rejections. Like, I've got a whole stack of rejections like in my inbox right now. You just forget about them. You're just like, cool, I made it. Awesome. And then now I'm in a position where they're contacting me. Like, it's no longer like I'm actively looking. It's like I have people actually contacting me now. It's like, once you get that within like the first 6 months to a year, yeah, you could find your dream job. Your first job might not be the right fit, but you got the experience now. They're going to come to you.
Yeah, I think that's the key point is once you get that first job and you get that job experience, then there's a lot of people, there are a lot of jobs that open up for you. And
Yeah.
you're going to get a lot of good offers. So the dream job may take, six, as Tyler said, 6 months or a year, but it will come.
Yeah.
All right. So we've got another question here from Jet. It says, if you were doubting your passions in coding, but somehow want to survive, any tips?
Step away from it for a minute. Like, not like a long period of time, but just if you feel yourself like frustrated with like a certain project or something you're doing and it's making you doubt it, just walk away for a little bit. Just, take a break from it, work on something else. Um, like with my job now, I've got like 4 or 5 different projects I'm like trying to juggle, and some of them are really like difficult. You're just like, I would basically have to rewrite everything to make that work. And so I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to go work on a different project, come back to this fresh. And then you're like, oh, cool. Actually, no, I could do it like that. So, I mean, if you're doubting your passion, it might just be that you're getting frustrated and you're getting burnt out. So you just kind of want to do something to kind of prevent that. Or if you're already burnt out, like kind of refind it, maybe work on like a little passion project or something, read coding articles, troll on Stack Overflow. It's a whole thing.
Yeah, I think it's learning part is the hardest part of getting into the business, and it can be frustrating and it can be tedious. But you'll find once you get into like on a team and you're working with a team, things usually go a lot easier, and you're able to figure out how to get things done a lot quicker when you're collaborating.
Yeah, for sure. Like
Now,
anytime I'm running into trouble now, um, I work on like a small team. We're all on different projects, but like at least now, like if I'm working on something and I'm starting to get frustrated, I'll just reach out to them. Like, what do you think about this? Like, how would you go about doing this? And then try to look at it from somebody else's perspective can actually help with your perspective. And you'd be like, oh, that's actually interesting. I didn't know I can do it like this. And then that might respark that passion or interest.
and how fun is coding now,
Oh,
Tyler?
I love it. I love it. Like, especially now, like one of my projects, we're finally like going live, and it's like this big like fundraiser charity type place. And I mean, it's like they deal with like families that have children with cancer and stuff. So it feels really good that I'm like, helping them make a difference to these families. And then also just seeing your work go live and into production, and you see everybody like using it the way it's supposed to do. And you're like, I built that. I put that button right there. Yep.
That is cool. That's really
Yeah.
cool.
It's great.
All right, got another question from David, and it says, when do you determine that it's time to reach out and ask for help? I've been working as a developer for several months now, and this is one of my biggest struggles. Sometimes I solve the problem on my own, and it feels fantastic, but it's hard to know exactly when to stop my own research and reach out to a peer.
Um, I feel like everybody experiences it. Like this was me, like completely. Um, they have like a policy here at my job. It's like if you're spending more than like 15 to 30 minutes, like just trying to figure out what to research to fix the problem, that's probably when you should reach out. Like if you're having trouble like finding out like what do I Google, like you should probably reach out. Like you're just going to get in your own way at that point.
Help with
I
that.
mean, I still do that. Like I still sit here and like, I'll take extra time. Like, yeah, I was just trying to figure it out. And, you know, like it does feel great, but it also feels good knowing how to do it the right way the first time. Like my boss is very particular in my case. Like he's very like by the book. Like he could it's the way he codes is basically Microsoft like threw the manual at you. It's very clean to the point. So it's like going through like even just like, hey, how do you want this named? Like just naming variables and stuff. Like, how do you want this named? Like after a while, when things start getting thrown back at you, you're just like, okay, how do you want it done? So it's just you'll get to that point where you're like, oh, reaching out's not that bad. Like you might think that you have like this giant problem, and you're like, oh, I'm just kind of scared to ask. And then once you finally do, you're like, oh, that was actually pretty simple. And especially if you work with like peers that are like, oh yeah, anytime you have a problem, like just let's do this. Let's like hash it out. Like one of my team members, like we sat there for like 6 hours just trying to like figure out one thing I was trying to do. And a lot of times it was just, just talking between each other, like just trying to solve the problem, but also like, you're sitting there like with a friend almost. Like you're able to like bounce ideas back and forth. And he's like, you're going to be my new rubber ducky because I don't have one on my desk. Like, okay. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with that, but
Yeah, you may want to let them know what the rubber ducky is.
oh, okay. So
Classic. It's a classic.
yeah, basically you have something like a rubber duck, and if you're having trouble like asking questions, or you're having like, it's just not making sense, you basically repeat everything to the rubber duck. And sometimes just saying it out loud to someone or to something, you answer your own questions. So I'm now his rubber duck. He just starts chatting. He's like, I don't expect you to like respond. I just need to type it out and say it. Like, okay, yeah.
So when you do get your first job and you see a duck on everyone's desk, now you know what it is.
Yep. I would get a duck or anything.
Yeah.
It could be literally anything. I've got like a Kylo Ren action figure sitting on my desk at work that I just talk to.
Yeah.
And nobody will think you're weird. They're like, I know what you're doing.
There you go. Now Jeanette had a question. She asked do you have any examples of your resume?
I do.
Or you can if you want, you can send it to me and then I can email it to them if you want to do that, or you can just pop it up on the screen if you want. There is a with the menu at the bottom there, or right to the left of it, there's a present button. So if you wanted to present it on a screen, you could.
Yeah. Can you guys see that?
Not yet. If when you present, just present your entire screen. And that should do it. There you go. Yeah, we can see it. Looks good.
Yeah. I can also post, you could find links to it here. That's basically like the portfolio website I made during the course. It's got links to like my GitHub and, my resume, LinkedIn. LinkedIn is super important. It's actually how I found this job. It's like, you're just networking, all of that.
Did you post much on LinkedIn, like just as kind of a social thing when you were looking for work?
No, actually, I hardly post anything. I used it as just networking and like messaging. Lately I've been like looking, I think I started following this coding group. They post funny coding memes. And I'm like, yeah, should do a couple of those. But yeah, that's how I got linked up with like Career Karma. I did a talk with them. Yeah, it's a great networking tool. That's how I got this job. Like they found me through LinkedIn. I found them through LinkedIn. I sent them my resume and everything, and then they went back and they checked my LinkedIn profile and everything was linked there. And that's how they got to see me. So LinkedIn's very
And now, if you put your resume back up there on the resume tab, Tyler, Jeanette also asked how well it works with the ATS software. So the automatic profiling, I guess.
what?
ATS software. It's like when they put your resume through a machine and it picks out key points.
Yeah.
Before someone looks at it.
I've ran into like a couple of sites that, you know, you kind of have to fix the bullets, like they'll include those. But most of the time it's exactly how you put it in. I don't know why this is.
Fixing the resume. There you go.
Yeah. I just turned this in yesterday.
No, that's a good example.
Yeah, the only thing it's basically the same thing I did at the Tech Academy. It's just now that I have like some developer experience with Oyova, I was able to actually like put in my experiences and stuff and build this up. Before it was all live project stuff and all that. Yeah, feel free to check it out. It's all on my my portfolio page.
Yeah, we appreciate the link to the portfolio. That's a really good example for anyone who's starting to look for work now.
I think they made some changes to it since I graduated. I remember getting an email from like Forest or something. They're like, "Hey, we've updated, you know, some of the things that you can use for your portfolio website." I'm like, "Okay."
Yeah, we've had some good updates, and it's ever evolving.
Yeah, I need to redo it. I'm gonna put it through .NET and just do like, kind of want to do like an MVC thing with it and have multiple pages and all that.
That'll be a good project. Good
Yeah.
for the portfolio for sure.
Oh yeah.
Looks like Jid has another question. If you want to step away from coding jobs into areas like management, do you have any tips as you are not sure about your passion when compared to other colleagues?
Well, you have to like kind of stop comparing yourself to other colleagues too. Like that's a big thing. Like you might know something that they don't. They might know something that you don't. I mean, it goes hand in hand. Like, yeah, they might have a couple more years experience on you, but just wait till you're at their level and somebody new comes on. You're like, oh yeah, no, I'm not better than you. I just know a little bit more. But yeah, there's plenty of management things you can do within coding. We're actually hiring project managers, and they're like, if you have like coding background, that's all the better, because like when you talk to the clients, you can explain things a little more, or you'd be able to be like, I know what you're talking about. So like, oh yeah, we just want this. Like, that won't quite work. I'll pass it on to the team, but you know, you can be a little more upfront and help them like see their vision. And then yeah, I think there's a project management course on it. Yeah, I mean it goes through that, and I would definitely like, if you don't like coding so much but you want to stay in the field, if there's an opportunity to get into like management, project management, anything like that, I mean, yeah, go for it. I mean, you're still there, and you won't be completely lost. Like when you're trying to explain things like, oh yeah, I need this done. Well, can you do it? Yeah. You know, nobody wants
Yeah,
the boss that can't actually do the work.
yeah, I do know good amount of Scrum Masters, that kind of thing, that are just in project management. And they really like it.
Yeah. I mean, it's great. Like I'm kind of bleeding into that a little bit on my end. like we're a small company, so like I ended up having to do like some of the project management and stuff like that when I meet with clients, and you're able to take away like both sides. You're like, okay, yeah, cool. I can explain things to you and I can also do it. So it's great. I mean, there's always opportunities in management, and if you got a little coding background, a lot of people are looking for that.
Well, and I think a lot of people just naturally, as are with the company for a while and you get the experience, everything that's going on, you just kind of naturally go into project management.
Yeah,
It just kind of happens, and you're more managing. You know how everything works, but you're more managing what others are doing with their
yeah,
code.
for
Yeah,
sure.
cool. Now, Tyler, if you could talk a little bit about what it was like when you first started your job and your integration in with the new team, kind of what your first day was like, and how they allotted tasks to you and built up more and more tasks over time for you to complete.
Yeah. When I first started, like my first day was, they actually had me go to the office, and I was like, I thought you said I could work from home, but okay. And so like I went to the office, met with my boss and everything, and everybody was already working from home and all this. I don't think I talked to anybody on my team for the first like week. And like we were all different projects. They're like, oh yeah, once you get a little more like experience here and get the flow of how things work here, we'll add you to their project. But we have some other little things here that you can do. And it was like just little things just to test out like, knowledge of like pushing up branches and stuff. And I think my first month was just me adding buttons to web forms and links and stuff like that. I'm like, oh, okay. And then started getting into deeper things like start messing with like controllers and having to write my own methods and helper methods, and start working with like databases and all the SQL and everything. At first it was like small things. Like a task for me now would have been broken up into like 10 tasks before. So it's like now it's like, oh yeah, we just need you to fix the page and like hit this points in here. And before it was like, okay, you're gonna go and you're gonna put this link there. Next task is now you're gonna change it here. It was like, they knew where I was at, so they broke everything down like to the littlest thing for me to try to get me used to working like that. And then that way I was prepared a little bit more for when I jumped onto these bigger projects that have their own DevOps and everything like that. And I'm not just completely lost. Like I'm working with the University of Florida Foundation, and I think it's massive and just super confusing. And if they would have thrown me into that, I probably would have stopped. Like there's so many moving parts. So it was like really great that they kind of like baby stepped me the whole way. Like I remember when I first started, like they called me I think my job title was like entry level software applications developer. I was like, okay, you don't have to throw the entry level on there, whatever. And then I remember when my boss was like, he emailed me and he was just like, I need you to take entry level off there. You're like no longer entry level. Yes, score. Okay. So they baby stepped me like the whole time, and it was really great. It's been really great.
Baby stepped you, and you had some good wins as you got the experience and moved up. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, with maintaining your mental health, a big thing I think with a lot of people or a lot of developers is task management. And I don't know if maybe how much you've experienced it, but I know a lot of people have experienced where they get too many tasks that are thrown at them, and they're you know their boss wants them to accomplish it, and it's just not possible. What are some of the things that are good ways to handle that?
Um, just breaking everything down. Like say you get a task and it's it's quite large, just take little chunks out of it and then just make your own tasks. Like, okay, I have to get all this done, but first I have to do this. Okay, that's what I'm going to work on right now. Then I'm going to work on this. Then I'm going to work on this. And just kind of breaking it down yourself. And then that way, like I was saying before, like if you get to a point where like you don't want to leave the task like unfinished and have to think about it all the next day, if you break it down, you're like, okay, cool, I'm satisfied with where I'm at right now, I can stop. It's just like, just break everything down, just little pieces until you get more comfortable with it. And then like also communicate that to like your boss, like, hey, this is all a lot of information to take in at like one point. Like, is there any way we can like, you can break this down and then just give me each step in like a little bit more details. Like task management was like kind of a big deal when I started with this company. Like it was very like, everything was very vague. And I would just start asking so many questions like, well, you didn't explain that. That's not how it went. And then finally they're like, okay, well, we're just going to break it down for you. I'm like, thank you. Just gonna be a little vocal about it. If like, especially if you're not understanding something or it seems like too overwhelming, just be like, is there any way you can like chop this up for me? And, that way I can set like a realistic goal of when to finish this. So, because I mean, it might get broken up and the first part might take, an hour. The second part might take like 4 hours. And that last little part might take like 15 minutes. I've got a lot of things that I've done like that. And it's like, once you break it up, like, okay, well, here's where I can, sort my time through the day. That way I'm not sitting here till like 11 o'clock at night, just being like, I just want to go to sleep. Yeah. So just breaking it up. Just if whoever is assigning the task won't break it up, you have to do it yourself. Like, even pad and pencil, write down what you're going to do. That way you can clearly see, okay, that's what I'm doing. Cross it off. Now this is what I'm doing. That's what I do, at least.
Well, I think like we touched on earlier, asking for help from a peer and getting help from a peer really kind of speeds things up and you're able to accomplish more with the tasks. Like you said, like you worked with a peer and it took you 6 hours to figure something out. But if you tried to do it on your own, it probably would have been 6 days.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, especially when you start thinking about like company time, it's like they would rather 6 hours, something takes 6 hours than 6 days. So, and another thing, when you go to ask for help, if you've broken down your task into little sections and like what you need to do, when you go to ask for help, you can know exactly what part you need help on. You don't have to be like, I don't know, here's the task. Like, where do I fit this in? It's like, now you know exactly like what piece of information you're looking for when you like break it down yourself, which is always handy. Because I've had a couple tasks where it's like, I'll ask for help and they're like, what part are you on? Like, have you done this? I'm like, I've done all this. I just need this part. Like, oh, okay.
It's a little part.
More. Yeah, just a little part.
Won't take long.
Yeah.
So when you what was it like going to work with job placement when you first started working with them? What were some of the steps that you did that you would say really helped you?
You kind of have to look at finding a job like you have a job. Like, you're putting in the time to get the job. Like, put in the time to do your resumes, do your applications, researching the companies, calling people back, doing all these little things. Like, you have to set aside the time to do that. Like, it doesn't have to be like an 8-hour thing. Like, putting like 3 or 4 hours in your day just to doing that will help out like tremendously. Instead of like spending all day to like just looking for a job, I don't know what to do. It's like actually sit down and put in a couple hours just filling things out, reaching out to people, networking. I did a lot of networking. So, and it's weird. Like now I have people that reach out to me at hey, we're want to know if you're interested in this. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure I applied to this like a year ago. Like I still have the employment logs that job placement has you fill out. Like, okay, where was it? That it's like 35 or something like that you had to put on this log. I still have all those, and I'm like, yeah, I applied to you. You said no. What changed? So
Yeah, it's funny how that works. Yeah, getting that experience is the key thing. Like once you get that job, then it's they come looking for you. A lot of headhunting, that kind of thing.
yeah, I'm talking to a recruiter right now that they're like, are you actively looking? I'm like, no, I just decided to answer the phone. They're like, oh, okay. Yeah.
Well, and I know some of the offers can be really good offers, like with a dream job, but they can be really lucrative too.
Yeah. Yeah. Like this one, this job is definitely like I love the experience that I'm getting and I love the people I work with, but financially, I don't think it's something I can keep. It's
Yeah,
first
yeah, it's pretty typical with the first job, and you said it's kind of a new company too, kind of a startup, I guess.
They've been around 2000. They've been around for like 10 years. They're just a small company. I think 30 people work there. I think I was number 28. So, I mean, it's not huge, but it's a lot of dev work. It's a lot of work. I think 3 out of the 5 projects I'm on, it's either just me or it's like me and like the senior. And like we're building like full like web apps, just something that you would normally see like a couple people on. Like another project, I think all 6 of us are working on that. And it's like, why don't we have 6 people working on this project? It's just me. I want some help. Give me an intern.
So do you ever think of relocating to Silicon Valley?
Go
to work for one of the FANG companies?
Yeah, I don't think so. I actually interviewed with Microsoft when I was going through my job placement. I was like, Microsoft. And I remember it was Chris Robinson was my job placement director. We actually went to the bootcamp together. We did our live project together. And then he ends up being I think he took over for, I don't even remember his name. But it was like me and him were able to just have conversations just because it was like, oh yeah, we were a live project together. You're going to help me find a job. It's fine.
And you knew each other.
Yeah. And so I remember telling him like, dude, I got Microsoft. Like I got an interview with Microsoft. He's like, that's crazy. I'm like, I know. It turned out not to be like a coding job. And I approached it in the form of like a coding interview. I think they just wanted like somebody to do like the way the recruiter pitched it to me, it was a coding job. But then when I go into the interview, it was more like a customer service with like maybe a little bit of coding knowledge. I'm like, I don't. So I bombed that interview like in front of Microsoft. It was great. Wait till you guys do that. Just completely like I made myself look bad in front of Microsoft. I still made it.
Yeah, and sometimes those jobs could be good entry jobs to get into coding. I know a couple people that took jobs that were just like customer service with tech and kind of technical support, but they were able to work into jobs with coding after that.
Yeah, like that's what they were talking about. They're like, oh yeah, like if you go through this, like you'll be first in line for like any coding jobs that pop up. I'm like, okay. I mean, I went into the interview and it was just like I bombed it because I went in thinking like a programmer, not like a customer service type oriented person. And so they're like, yeah, we don't think you're gonna be a good fit. I'm like, okay. And then because they had me do like a coding, like they sent me some code and they wanted me to like walk through it. And like I walked through it and all, and then I sent the code to Chris at the same time, and we both ended up saying the exact same things. And it was just like they didn't want us to like explain how the code worked. They just wanted us to be like, oh yeah, this might be your issue or something like that. It was definitely like customer service, like all the way. I don't think they wanted much coding knowledge at all. They're like,
Yeah.
yeah, we'll call you. I'm like, Microsoft doesn't call you back. They don't have to call you back.
Yeah. My brothers work for Microsoft for 10 years now. He lives in
Oh,
Seattle, but he's a developer, and yeah, it's been good for him.
I bet.
Yeah.
That's the dream right there. It's like, yeah, let's go.
Yeah, he's got a real nice house in Seattle now. So cool. All right. Does anyone else have any questions for Tyler here? Tyler's a really good story, one of our really good success stories with the Tech Academy. So if you have any questions, definitely post them in the chat. You can raise your hand as well, and I can unmute the mic. All right. Well, it looks like that's it, Tyler. Definitely want to thank you for coming out. That was a really good talk. Kind of informal about what it's like to be a developer and your journey to where you are now. So that's awesome. I am going to post our URL for our school website. So if you haven't, if you're thinking about getting into coding and you want to check out what our school offers, you can definitely have a look there. And we will post this to our YouTube channel. So we'll be posted later tonight. If you want to go back and watch any parts of it, you're definitely welcome to do that. Any last words, Tyler?
Um, just always hold on to that like passion, like the reason why you're getting into it, and that will keep you going throughout your career. Like it always just like, what, I got into this because I wanted to be creative and I love technology, and just always have that mindset and you should be fine. Like just and always keep up with like, little things like just keep yourself healthy. Keep your headspace good, reach out. There's plenty of people out there willing to help. And also, if you have any more questions or want to reach out, like I posted that link that's got like my GitHub, it's got my LinkedIn on there, it's got my resume. Feel free to like look over that, use that as examples. I mean, a lot of you guys are probably in the course or getting ready to do like job placement, anything like that. There's a good example. Yeah, feel free to reach out anywhere on there. LinkedIn's good. I've turned my notifications back on, switched phones, and somehow it got turned off. So, but I've turned it back on. So reach out if you guys have any more questions or anything, or need help getting into coding, and I can help point you in a direction.
Help everyone keep their positive headspace and
Yeah.
finding their work, and yeah.
Yeah.
It's good to keep in touch with alumni, I think. So yeah, do reach out. And if you look at Tyler's setup for his portfolio, he's got a really good one. So it's a really good example of what you want to have to be able to showcase your skills and who you are for employers.
Yeah. It's
Cool,
going to
Tyler.
change, but for now, that one's good.
All righty. Well, thank you very much, Tyler. It's been really good having you. And yeah, we will definitely have you back soon again if you want.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I love doing these things. I remember like starting this. I'm like, I don't know. I'll never want to do. I'll never want to talk about it. And now I'm like, this is like the second one for you and one for career economy. I'm like, I kind of like talking about it.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I did this. It's kind of like when you see a website you've designed, you're like, I did that button.
Yeah, it's a real cool feeling. Like you said, when you got your first work, it was a great feeling, or your first job.
Yeah.
And it was just like, and then all the wins you have after that, it really builds your confidence and, makes you feel good about what you're doing.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like once you see like that first win, it's great.
There you go. All right, Tyler. Well, I want to thank everyone for coming out. And like I said, this will be posted on YouTube later on. And everyone have a great weekend.
Yeah. Good weekend, guys. Thanks for having me.
All right, Tyler. Yeah, thanks again. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thanks, guys.